Welcome back to the deep dive. We are here to take your source material, analyze it, and, really distill it down to the core insights you need to be well informed.
Yeah.
Today's deep dive is into something. Well, it's a colossal foundational element of the modern economy that rarely gets the attention it deserves. We're talking about public sector undertakings, PSUs.
And our mission today is fueled by a stack of, I have to say, fascinating and highly argumentative sources. This isn't just a descriptive look at what PSUs are.
No.
It's an active, powerful challenge to the common perception that the work they do is, quote, boring.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this whole idea of perception versus reality, that is the absolute center point of the material shared with us.
It is.
If you've ever considered a career in this sector, or maybe you've just passed one of those massive refinery complexes on the highway, you might have defaulted to thinking stable, predictable, maybe a little dull, exactly. But our sources are suggesting that dismissing this work as boring, it fundamentally misunderstands its scale and its critical nature.
Completely.
Yeah.
The source material is very direct about this conflict. It sets up the straw man immediately. It says, in essence, they call PSU jobs boring, they say.
Right.
The authors are calling out that cultural label, and they're getting ready to just dismantle it.
That's a great hook. So what's the ultimate defense? I mean, what's the core counter-argument that this research offers?
It's this powerful rhetorical rebuttal, a really simple observation. Boring jobs don't power a nation. And that's the pivot we need to make with you, the listener. We have to stop focusing on how externally exciting the job looks and start focusing solely on the immense scale of the output.
The responsibility.
The responsibility and the foundational necessity of what these entities deliver to the entire country.
So let's ask the ultimate question then, the one that frames the rest of our deep dive. If these jobs are in fact responsible for powering the nation, what are the specific monumental systems mentioned in the source material that prove this point? We need those concrete examples of that massive impact.
To really get the complexity, we need to systematically list and explore the four primary infrastructure categories the sources highlight. These are not just service providers.
No.
They are the immediate foundational necessities that ensure the lights stay on, the transport systems run, and the economy flows.
Okay, let's start at the source of the energy itself. The sources explicitly mention refineries and pipelines.
This is the bedrock. I mean, refineries are these highly complex chemical processing plants. They take raw crude oil and transform it into literally everything that runs modern life.
Everything from fuel for your car to
fuel for transport, for heating, crucial industrial inputs. The complexity of managing these operations, you're dealing with high pressures, extreme temperatures, incredibly precise chemical processes. It's immense.
And the risk profile of those sites, too. I mean, that's a constant high-stakes variable.
Absolutely. The role of PSU staff here is mission-critical stability management. Now, you couple that refinery output with the pipelines. The sources emphasize that the pipeline network acts as the circulatory system of the entire industrial economy. We're talking about vast networks, often thousands of miles, of continuous flow.
So how does managing a national pipeline network differ from just, say, running a standard logistics or trucking operation? The sources must highlight that unseen complexity.
It's fundamentally different because of the scale and the environment. You are managing fluid dynamics and pressure differentials across wildly varied climates.
From freezing mountains.
From freezing mountain passes to scorching plains, You have to account for thermal expansion, potential leaks, material science integrity, and crucially, security and anti-sabotage protocols for the entire length of the system.
Wow.
An error in managing pressure in just one 500-mile segment can shut down half the country's fuel supply. The day-to-day operation is all about high-stakes, proactive failure prevention.
That completely reframes the job. It's less about simple transport and more about continuous, large-scale, pressure-based engineering and security monitoring.
Exactly.
That's a massive responsibility.
Which is precisely the point the sources are making. That profound level of responsibility is the polar opposite of boring.
Okay, so moving from physical fuel transport to the ultimate visible power source. The second pillar the sources highlight is power grids. This has to be the most visceral example of powering a nation.
It really is.
When the lights are on, it's invisible. The second they flicker, everyone notices.
And that flicker, or the lack of it, hides an astounding level of operational complexity. Running a national power grid is the ultimate high-wire balancing act. You're managing demand spikes, ensuring synchronized supply from multiple, often conflicting, sources: hydro, thermal, nuclear, and the ever-challenging intermittent sources like solar and wind, all in real time, 24/7.
I can just see how integrating intermittent renewables would massively complicate the job. I mean, you can't tell the sun to shine, but you still have to promise the city lights will turn on tonight.
Precisely. And that need for dynamic stability, especially with renewables integration, requires incredibly sophisticated operational intelligence. The sources captured this required mindset perfectly. They describe it as minimal change, maximum clarity.
Minimal change, maximum clarity. That suggests the job is less about responding to dramatic events
Yes.
and more about constant granular vigilance to prevent those events from ever even happening.
That's the key technical insight we extract here. For instance, if a massive thermal power plant unexpectedly drops offline, the grid's frequency, its heartbeat, it starts to dip.
Right.
The PSU operator's job is to instantaneously activate reserves, potentially initiate controlled load shedding, and reroute power paths, all to maintain that frequency within milliseconds of stability.
Millisecond.
That process of maintaining national stability is highly focused, pressure-filled, and technologically advanced. It demands relentless, precise attention to detail.
That certainly makes a very strong case against the dull label. Okay, so we've covered fuel and electricity. Let's shift our focus to logistics, global connectivity, and trade. That brings us to the third category, ports.
Ports are the national economic arteries. If the energy sector provides the blood, the ports manage the goods moving in and out.
Right.
The sources use simple but really powerful language to describe their function. It delivers.
That's a great double meaning. It's a literal statement about trade, but it's also a rhetorical statement about the overall functional reliability of PSUs.
It is. And the magnitude of the job comes down to sheer volume and optimization. Consider the fact that major national ports are often managing the throughput of hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of TEUs.
20-foot equivalent units.
Right, per month. This requires incredibly complex optimization of berths, labor, rail, trucking, customs clearance, all of it.
And when you scale that up to a national level, we're talking about coordinating global supply chains that involve massive geopolitical risks, security concerns, and domestic logistics challenges all at the same time.
Absolutely. The PSU staff running these ports are essentially global trade air traffic controllers. A delay at a single major port because of a security inspection, congestion, a labor dispute, it can trigger ripple effects throughout the entire national economy.
Impacting everything.
Everything from manufacturing schedules to consumer prices. Their successful silent operation means your goods arrive on time. Their failure means economic paralysis.
So we've definitely established the massive impact by pointing to the systems. The refineries and pipelines securing energy, the power grids ensuring stability, the ports enabling trade. Now, let's move to Section 2 and unpack this central, maybe more philosophical paradox that the sources identify.
Okay.
PSU work is silent. Its impact is massive.
This is where we synthesize the whole argument. Why does this critical high-stakes work get labeled boring? It's silent precisely because it is running effectively.
So what you're really saying is their reward system is based entirely on nothing happening.
That's a fascinating inversion of the standard corporate incentive structure.
It is, isn't it?
Where performance is often rewarded by visible wins, market share increases or new product launches.
Exactly. Unlike those visible consumer-facing sectors, the public sector's most massive impact is felt when the infrastructure is so successful that you, the listener, never have to spare it a second thought. If your lights turn on every day, if your water flows, if fuel is available at the pump, that is the sound of monumental successful achievement by the PSU.
And the only time the work shouts is during a catastrophic failure, a widespread power outage, a supply chain breakdown, a pipeline breach.
Yes. Yeah. The sources are implicitly arguing that the cultural bias against PSU work stems from a failure to appreciate stability. In our modern high-speed economy, we often equate visible excitement or drama with value.
But foundational stability, which is essential to enable that high-speed economy, is often perceived as, passive. The argument is, the lack of noise is the sound of success.
This connects directly back to the listener's daily experience, like we said. The stability and continuous function of these systems, the fact that the grid operates within that tiny frequency band, the fact that pressure is maintained across thousands of miles of pipeline, those are the invisible benefits we rely on every single minute. The sources are forcing us to shift how we value foundational stability versus perceived visible excitement.
The simple equation that sources are arguing for is profound. PSU does not equal boring. They are challenging the idea that value must be dramatic.
Yeah.
Running a nation requires immense, stable, predictable execution on an unimaginable scale, and that requires an extremely high level of focused expertise.
Which brings us to the social component, the argument for pride. The source material wasn't just a technical description. It included things like social media taglines and internal arguments like #PSLife and #PublicSectorPride.
Right.
This suggests a conscious desire within the sector to reclaim and own that massive silent impact.
It's an appeal to recognize the essential nature of the work and to foster a different kind of professional fulfillment. The pride they are arguing for isn't derived from fleeting recognition or headlines.
Right, not from a flashy win.
No, but from the deep, fundamental satisfaction of knowing you are personally maintaining the very operating system of the country.
It's the pride of being the enabling force. You're not just building an app that millions of people might use. You are operating the actual mechanism, the physical, tangible infrastructure that enables the nation to exist.
That's it. That's the conclusion. The perception of dullness is an outside perspective, and it's based on a faulty metric, which is a lack of drama. The internal reality, as argued by these sources, is one of unwavering focus, intense responsibility, and contributing to national enablement. The pride comes from knowing your contribution is essential, even if it's invisible most of the time.
So the deep dive sources have certainly made a compelling and, a really detailed argument that the function of public sector undertakings is defined not by how exciting the job title sounds, but by the undeniable, essential, nationwide dependency on the successful operation of these silent systems. From refineries and pipelines to the complexity of the power grids and the massive flow through the ports, we've seen that stability requires infinitely more complexity than chaos.
And if we connect this insight to the bigger picture, the lesson is clear. Massive impact does not always equate to visible flash.
That's a great way to put it.
And so here is a final provocative thought for you to consider. Building on this idea of silent power, if the work is massive precisely when it runs invisibly, what fundamental unseen systems in your professional or daily life are you currently taking for granted? Look for the invisible infrastructure in your own context, the processes, the people, or the foundational stability, whose silent operation is actually a monumental achievement that you'd only notice when it